All right, welcome to day one of presentations. I don't have them up in any order, so you may have to sort through your own. If you want to get rid of this video pane, I just want to show this. I'm sure everybody knows how to zoom, but the presenter pane, go to these ellipses and you can hide the floating media controls. The only reason I mention that is when somebody hits escape, those are going to pop right back up again. So it's going to become a pain. So if you just want to get rid of these so you can sort through these, that's fine. I'm going to move the camera. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and create the floating media controls again because I want to make sure the camera is always set up. Talk amongst yourselves. What's your favorite use of AI? Obviously, I'm just creeping. Call a spade, I guess. Yeah. All right, I'm just going to go in the order of the list that's on here. So first up is Kate.
Okay, am I good?
Good.
Okay, so I'm a marketing major, and something I've noticed in all my internship interviews recently is AI is always brought up. And it's not just about like they're curious, they're actually scared. They're trying to figure out how to integrate AI without losing the human creativity behind marketing and brand strategy. So that's how I came up with my question: how can AI-powered tools like Copilot assist in brand development by generating creative content and enhancing audience engagement? We'll talk about two main areas: first, brand development, and then creative content. So starting with brand development, Microsoft Copilot can actually refine and define brand strategies, can generate statements, core values, and brand personality ideas based off of your company's existing messages and goals. It can also suggest updates to logos and visual elements that can like keep your brand modern and appealing. So while that's great and all, it's not always correct. So for example, this is the Bass Pro logo and very recognizable. You could probably take off the font and you would still know it's Bass Pro. So I put this logo in Copilot and said to like refresh the logo, and it gave me this. I think we all know Bass Pose Shops is not Bass Pro Shops. And this small typo can actually really hurt a brand's credibility and reputation, especially if it wasn't checked. So what I found from that is AI is a great brainstorming tool, but shouldn't be your final decision maker. Moving on to creative content, Copilot's very strong in making content calendars, planning campaigns, and suggesting formats like infographics, videos, blog posts, that kind of stuff. So, but it's the same idea as the logo, to where a human still needs to fact check it and make sure it's correct, because marketing is all about connecting with a real audience. And so Copilot's not a real person. So that's the importance. And so what I learned also, a good takeaway, is that AI is actually, it can strengthen your brand if used correctly. So marketers have found that they can their time is allotted elsewhere because AI can do the repetitive tasks of like scheduling posts and scheduling the tedious work. So marketers have time for the high level creative work that can actually make a brand stand out. So my biggest takeaway is that AI can be your partner, but not like the replacement. Like it can, generate the workflows and your spark ideas and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you still need human creativity, human judgment, and strategic thinking in order to truly connect with an audience. Thank you.
I feel like this is going to become a theme of a lot of the discussion we're going to have, but it's kind of the ultimate takeaway that you can use AI to supplement what humans have done in the past, but you can't eliminate the human element.
Correct. I mean, it's still at the end of the day, still doesn't know, especially with marketing, it's like a response. It's like how people are going to respond to different things. And Copilot is not have the human feelings like that we have, that we can know, oh, if I make this ad, it's going to, be able to be responded correctly for them to buy my product.
I kind of saw your logo the first time and just didn't really pay attention to it. And then I saw the creational logo. I says, okay, probably something a POS is probably not going to be beneficial for a marketing campaign. There have been bigger faux pas in marketing campaigns in the past. It's kind of interesting. That was what I came up with. Any other questions? All right, good job.
Thank you.
Caroline, you're up next.
Okay. Okay.
My name is Caroline Brink. I am a finance major, and so what I wanted to do with my AI research project was kind of look into how AI can be used with finance. And from that, I was able to narrow it down more to how AI could be used in like personal budgeting apps. Because if you don't have a lot of knowledge about personal finance or budgeting coming into it, it can be kind of a daunting task to look at. So AI could be useful to help kind of narrow that down and make it more accessible. Additionally, if you don't have the resources to pay for like a financial planner or something, AI can be used in that. So the question that I started out with was, how can AI be used in personal finance to help create user-friendly budgeting apps? This first prompt gave me 7 responses. And then from those 7 responses, I kind of went more in depth into each one, like how can AI be used in this? So for example, the first one is automated expense. So my next like prompt was, how can AI be used in automated expense? And I went like for each one of the 7 to kind of look more into it on how AI can be used. With automated expense tracking, one of the biggest things it talked about was like instead of it would replace manual data input, and obviously like Kate brought up already, there can be a lot of errors in AI, but so you'd have to double check it, but it would take away kind of a lot of the tedious time and brain power that goes into manually inputting expenses. Additionally, it can help with predictive analysis. It can you can put in like your life plans, your goals, and things like that. It can help you make goals and saving plans now, as well as kind of thinking ahead for how to save best for kind of big life expenses that the majority of people face or that you're expecting to face. One of the more interesting things that it brought up was chatbots, which is like, I thought it was interesting because it would add a more interactive, like personal kind of level to the apps, and you would be able to ask a question and get immediate response, as opposed to just kind of like asking a question and having to wait quite a while to get a response. And then finally, in fraud detection, it can look through different documents and be looking for fraud, as well as like looking for risk of fraud and kind of assessing how to protect yourself against that. So overall, I think that it can be used to make financial planning a lot more accessible to a lot of people who, one, don't have the knowledge, 2, don't have the resources. I think that there certainly is a place for it. I think though that, I mean, actual people as financial planners and financial advisors are still more useful than AI, as they probably will be for quite a while. But I think that this is a good step in the right direction.
Do you see AI tools as being more of a supplement for financial literacy or a substitute for financial literacy?
I think definitely a supplement right now. I think they can be helpful with like the smaller, more menial tasks of like taking a picture, and AI puts the data of your receipt into enters the data. So they can do like more menial tasks, but I think bigger picture like planning, it's probably better to still have like an actual human being.
And so you kind of talked a little bit about it in your write-up about some of the things and your presentation, obviously, but what do you think is probably the biggest barrier to having these AI tools be more omnipresent in this area?
I think potentially mistrust of AI. Like a lot of, like Kate said, in a lot of my interviews that I've gone to, people have been like, how is AI, like, how is AI going to kind of change the future of this field? And I think people like aren't fully trusting that it is good, or are scared that it will take jobs and things like that.
Other questions? All right, good job. Drew.
Hey guys, my name is Drew Wilson, and my research question is, what role can AI play in predicting and managing environmental disasters, and what are the potential environmental costs of these AI systems? I chose this question because I was really interested since AI is relatively new. I was wondering what impact it's had on our environment and if it can actually predict any disasters happening. So for my first point is early detection and forecasting. AI applies machine and deep learning algorithms to start detecting patterns. So for this specific model, we can see first its index calculation so that it can actually predict through how hot or cold like where a certain like area and for wildfires. And second is interpolation, which is estimating between 2 points of weather data that we have to see where it is there. And then finally, it gives us results and it starts predicting up to 14 days before a wildfire can happen. And my next 2 points go hand in hand. So real-time monitoring and recovery impact assessment. Real-time monitoring is when sensor networks actually send data to AI, and then drones and satellites provide live visuals. So this little picture right here shows drones going around wildfires and showing like where the heat is and what is happening there. And then for recovery and impact assessment, image recognition is used to see this picture again, and then natural learning processing scans actually scan social media to see if anybody's posted anything to see where the impact has been used. And you can see a little bit of that right here of like live news video and all of that. And for the environmental cost of these AI systems, we're going to start with e-waste. So AI systems actually require rare elements in the earth, and it can actually damage ecosystems by mining these rare elements. And AI hardware updates frequently, so just updating a new part and then you'd have the part left over. Next, these 2 points also go hand in hand, high energy consumption. So data centers actually draw large amounts of electricity, and because they are being ran 24/7, and then that leads into carbon emissions, and that leads straight to my next point, carbon footprint of data centers. Data centers require constant cooling. Here's a little picture of how that works. So you have to have a cold aisle and a hot aisle, and most data centers use air cooling, so they push cold air through the hot air to make sure that it doesn't overheat, and that requires a lot of energy as well. So overall, AI systems can help dramatically in predicting wildfire assessment and any other natural disasters, but we have to keep sustainability in mind with electricity costs. Thank you.
So did you, when you're doing your research on this, did you run across the opening of 3 Mile Island that occurred last year? So they're actually reopening nuclear facilities to actually power AI data centers. Yeah. Yeah. So does that prospect, do you find that something promising, or do you find that a little bit trepidatious, a little bit concerning?
I feel like it depends on what side you look at it, because AI is probably going to be in the future since it is here now. So they're trying to get more energy into it. It would be a great idea, but we got to think about how building the nuclear plant is going to affect our environment and how we have to get resources from it. So I think it could be either way.
Other questions? Excellent. Oh, yeah.
So I chose how the costs associated with AI, particularly its maintenance and upgrades, would affect how it would be implemented. I focused on healthcare, finance, and education because I feel like they are going to be the ones that are going to want it the most. Now, maintenance and upgrades. Hardware, software, and infrastructure, all of that in AI can be pretty expensive. Just the hardware can be cost prohibitive. And of course, the people element, the software, can be very expensive if you're having your own AI team to help keep everything under control. So, healthcare. High initial costs and serious cybersecurity work to keep people's data secure can be extremely cost prohibitive, especially in the healthcare sector. Since there's so much data that you have on a patient, a single patient, that you have to keep secure. So the risks of a cybersecurity leak can be extremely detrimental to a company. So that alone might keep healthcare from joining the AI race. Finance increases in the divide between small and large companies. Now, it might not seem like it, but if a large company can basically eliminate all of the tedious, long man hours, they don't have to have as many people to do the same amount of work. And a larger company can spend more money because it has more money to spend over the whole company. Education has the same problem. Larger universities with more funding can afford to spend money on larger projects like AI. Which would mean you could end up turning students from a smaller university that they might have gone to a larger university because they have a larger AI program. Overall, the costs for AI could be very prohibitive, and I do not know how well most of these industries will be able to compete.
So you identified something that's actually very problematic with cybersecurity and healthcare. That's like one of their primary concerns right now. Recent polls have said that as many as 80% of healthcare facilities are lacking a cybersecurity professional. Is there some possibility that this could be kind of a conciliatory problem where AI tools could be used to enhance cybersecurity?
It's possible, but again, it's already expensive enough, and it would just make it even more expensive for a hospital. In finance, you might not have to have that secure because, okay, so your documents got leaked a couple months early. Well, a hospital can't just let people's social security numbers out or their health ailments.
The medical records are certainly problematic. It makes it hard to make judgments. Any other questions? All right, good job. Sadie.
So, hi, my name is Sadie, and as a full-time student who struggles with anxiety and stress and dealing with all different things at once, I know that we've all been there one time or another. But thankfully, I have found a solution that works best for me, and that is the solution of video games. But I kind of questioned if there were actual like scientific benefits that actually help with students who struggle with stress and anxiety. So first, I use Copilot to help come up with a couple of benefits. And first of all, it helps with problem solving and mental stimulation, which can help with some cognitive benefits. And then it also can help reduce the symptoms of anxiety by producing mindfulness and kind of bringing you into the present moment. But then video games also act as like bringing you into a different immersed world and kind of separation from reality. And then you wouldn't really expect this, but it also helps promote social interaction. So those multiplayer video games or any like social community can also help people who struggle either with so low self-esteem or some social anxiety. So then I questioned whether this can actually be promoted by evidence or any case studies. So I asked Copilot to show me a couple of case studies, and there were several that actually showed some benefits that go along with the things that I said before. And one of them was they used a group of students who struggle with social anxiety and social isolation, and they used video game therapy instead of traditional therapy. And they found that the student actually experimented with different kind of social interaction, and they found that there were several health benefits as well as a better mental balance and well-being. And they also experienced more of a supportive environment and was able to accomplish some problem-solving activities. So then finally, I asked ChatGPT if they can relate this to an actual college student. And they actually found that it was an escape from some academic pressure that they were feeling or provide any social interaction, as well as some other health benefits. And it actually gave me a couple of suggestions on games that you could recommend. So if you're looking for more of like a physical game, then you can do Just Dance. Or if you're looking for more of a game to play in between studying or anything, then Heyday is also a great option. A couple of my favorites is like Sims or Minecraft. And then finally, it gave me some self-care strategies. So taking breaks in moderation is really important, but then also playing in moderation, because I know that sometimes it can be kind of a distraction. So you kind of have to play along with that. And then you can also find specific games that meet your specific needs. So in conclusion, I found that it's not just my own personal opinion that video games can be a helpful stress reliever. And I hope that you can take away from this a potential way to find a solution to your anxiety, especially with finals coming up next week. Thank you. Oh,
I love the presentation because I'm a gamification researcher. So yeah, that's I don't know if that was knowing your audience or was just a happy overlap, but um, is there a possibility that there could be go to one extreme? I mean, obviously you talked about playing games in moderation, but that's obviously the well-known one with there was a decade ago about the Warcraft people who basically would just get stuck on the MMO and then not would just abandon everything in their life. Is there kind of I guess when we talk about this, the applications that you're talking about for relaxation and for mental well-being, is there an offset to that you would say too much is what is the level of too much, I guess is what I'm asking.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like some students can probably take this as like a way of avoiding like assignments that they have to do or studying. So there's a lot of times where they won't even go out and socialize with friends or make it a friendly activity. They'll just kind of stay in their rooms and play video games all day, and not even focus on schoolwork. So it can be taken to the extreme if not managed well.
And so one thing that also I ran into through my research and is that sometimes there's a perceived cost associated with games. Whenever you try to put elements in the classroom, for example, because that's what I enjoy doing. Some students will say this is a relaxing way of learning something, and we'll kind of take that as the mission. Some students will take this, if I don't solve this problem, then I failed a particular course. How do you find the middle ground where it's supposed to be something that enhances the educational experience, but it's not meant to be stressful?
You kind of just have to find the video game that works best for you. So like for me, I love like Sudoku because it's number based and I'm an accounting major, so I really like that aspect. But for like the Wordle, I cannot stand that. It makes me so mentally stressed and I just can't think of words that are like 5 letters long and that would go along with that. So that's why you kind of have to play around with what works best for you and find the one that actually makes you stress relieved and not stressful.
Questions? All right, John. Ozzy. That was under double bubbles.
Okay, so I am a swim coach and I decided that I wanted to see how AI could help write my workouts. It is a quite difficult part of catering technique and just endurance training to each individual child. When it comes to swimming, it's a very technical sport. The difference between first and second place can be determined by different hand positions, time reaction off of the blocks, the amount of breaths in which a swimmer takes during their competition. And often you're seeing differences between first and second place of 0.01 seconds. So whenever you're breaking down things into that technical aspect, it's very important to focus on each swimmer as an individual and being able to adapt the workouts to what they need to improve. Whenever I went into Copilot to start prompting it, I initially started with a general, hey, give me a swim workout prompt. It gave me a very generic but useful workout. I took it to practice with me actually, and I had the swim teams go with it. And then I began to start to question if it was able to adapt to different variables. Like I have different age swimmers. Sometimes I don't want to have a 1,000-yard practice for my 18-year-old swimmers. It's just not enough. Just doesn't do anything for them. I also don't want to overload my little like 6-year-old swimmers with a really long workout or a technique that they simply aren't ready to learn. So I prompted AI to give me both catered workouts, those age groups. I decided to see if it could adapt to swim teams that might not have equipment to use that are specific for technique, and also adapt to both smaller and larger swim teams to see how it could accompany that coaching session. After running a few different practices, I actually took times for my students and wanted to see if there was an improvement or if improvement was less or greater than I had expected. It was about as I expected for normal coaching. It didn't show an improvement versus me coaching versus using the AI workouts. I did notice a deficit when it came to specific techniques. And I do believe that's because whenever using like the large language model that like Copilot, you have to be able to describe in great detail specifically what's going on with the swimmer and what technique they're using, what's wrong, in order for the AI to prompt you with a diagnosis or a fix to your solution. So I think in the future, if I were to use an AI model, I would like one that's directly capable of like visually monitoring and collecting data on swimmers to be able to better analyze and adapt.
So we've alluded to this in our discussion, but obviously AI is going to be certain level of expertise, but not an expert in this field. And this seems like one of those areas that your personal level of knowledge would be expert level versus AI's maybe being an advanced level. What are some specific things that you think that the AI tools, if not necessarily now, but have the potential in the future to do better than you would as an expert coach?
I think specifically the ability to adapt to more swimmers at a single time. Being as I'm one person, often whenever I'm writing, I don't have the time to write a specific workout for each individual swimmer. I think if the AI were able to be able to collect a data set for each swimmer and then be able to produce a workout for each swimmer based on their needs, that would be above and beyond what I can do with the time available.
Do you think there's a possibility of like swimmers being able to put their own information in without, I mean, obviously there's going to be some bias in there because nobody wants to report, they always want to report the most favorable details, but is there a possibility that you could use voluntary inputs in this regard?
It is a possibility. It wouldn't be very effective. I think a general amount of your swimmers will not be able to, I guess, self-report. A lot of times the most beneficial part of having a coach there is the swimmer doesn't know exactly what they're doing. They can't see visually what they're adapting to or what they're taking to. Having an AI observe that for them would be more beneficial than self-reporting.
Other questions? Audrey.
Okay, how many people plan on entering the workforce by at least 2026? Yes, obviously we've already talked a lot about today about jobs, people being worried about how is AI either going to take jobs or how is it going to change the workforce. So what I wanted to ask was, will AI replace accountants? And the simple answer is no. AI will only change what the workforce looks like, especially for accountants. As many people have already said, there's a lot of things that AI can be used for, such as rapid integration, reduction in manual labor, data entry. We can get rid of some of the human error that we get with data entry. It can automate things, compliance tracking, and it can optimize workflows. But the reality is that AI cannot replace humans and that expert knowledge that we've been talking a lot about. I know Dr. Barnes mentioned that AI did finally pass the CPA exam. Is that true? Which is incredibly impressive, but however, we still need humans to do things. So we see kind of a shift in what the jobs might look like
for accountants, such as advisory roles. People that can oversee the use of AI, can check with AI. These are those experts that Dr. Barnes has mentioned, as well as those business analysts, people that can look at this data that's being output and they can make decisions from it. That is still very much a human thing that we need. As well as risk management. We've talked a lot about cybersecurity. We still need that. Data interpretation, critical thinking is still very much a human skill, hopefully. Strategic consulting, professional judgment, ethical reasoning, and also relationship building. So obviously we're probably too young to have our own accountants, but many older people that have a lot of finance content often do hire an accountant or some kind of financial advisor to help them manage their assets if they're not able to do it themselves. And I know Kate talked about some personal finance things, but the reality is that you have to know enough about finances and accounting in order to do it yourself, even if you can use AI to help you. So I think we're still going to see a lot of jobs in accounting, finance, consultation, and stuff like that. But the workforce will change, obviously. So my conclusion that I got from ChatGPT and Copilot and other research that I did is that accountants should embrace AI as a collaborative tool, however, not as a replacement. Thank you.
So some of the things that you identified that artificial intelligence can do are things that we still teach in the classroom. And then one thing that I noticed on the humans, like the relationship building, we've been woefully inadequate as accountants of teaching that, or well, just accountants and business faculty in general, teaching how to do better job of soft skills and networking and things like that. Do you think that we as educators need to shift our focus in response to AI to teach things that are on the human side of your slide rather than the things that are on the AI side of your slide?
I think that it's not a black and white answer. I think we need both. I think we need those technical skills. This was the first class that really talked about AI for me. So it's been really interesting because I feel like I've gotten the soft skills from some classes, but this class really taught me to be more aware of how this changes stuff. But a lot of the accounting classes that I've in, we learned on paper, which is fine. But I think you're right. I think we do need to focus on those soft skills, but I think there's a lot of other supplemental things like DSP is a wonderful example of soft skills that you learn just through collaboration with humans versus working out in the classroom. So I don't have a definitive answer for you, but yes and no.
So your answer is it depends. That's an excellent answer. Yeah. Any other questions? Good job. Danny.
Well, somewhere along the line, I missed the one slide presentation rule, but I made it all into one slide now, so it looks good. So my prompt was actually to ask artificial intelligence how much artificial intelligence should be implemented into the business processes. And I focused specifically on three things. They were maximum efficiency, employee benefit, and shareholder support. So in my opinion, maximum efficiency is one of the best ways that AI can help a business, whether it be the supply chain, inventory management, manufacturing operations, and stuff like that. That is just the typical way of implementing AI that would reduce costs and increase shareholder wealth. And employee benefit is actually where I think I went wrong in this prompt that I had, because I almost wish that I didn't give AI any initiative to value employees as a good thing. Instead, I should have just let it myself figure out how much AI valued itself without regards to employees. But regardless, I continued on. And then shareholder support. So shareholder wealth is the biggest goal for most businesses, and it usually makes up the day-to-day decision-making processes. And then I decided to choose three companies. I chose Walmart because of its typical supplier, distributor, customer way of supply chain. And then I chose Netflix specifically because it had all online operations. And then I chose Toyota because it is the common manufacturing process that you'll see. And there's a lot of implementations of robots in the manufacturing process. And then for my key takeaways is that AI did suggest an increase. I actually prompted it to give me a pie chart, which it could not do. So then I prompted it to give me a table of the current to what it would believe is the ideal level of implementation of AI. And for every single one of these areas, it suggested an increase of at least 10%, if not 15%. And of course, certain industries have different implementation potential. For example, like if you're a janitor, you're probably not going to use too much AI. For my job in particular, I'm not going to use too much AI cleaning pools. And But some ones, especially like Netflix, that's all online. It had different ways of doing it. So the content recommendation was the highest with a 10% increase, and then also customer support and stuff like that. And then, of course, for Toyota and Walmart, it would be inventory management, manufacturing operations, and supply chain management. And then one of the things that I did find quite interesting, and I believe this is because I added employee benefit in the prompt, is that AI does value human creativity. In fact, after every single one of these prompts, it said that there needs to be, along the lines of this, it said there needs to be a balance between automation and human creativity in order to reach the best goal. Thank you.
I was struck by the fact that your findings suggest a really strange dichotomy in AI and humans, because your conclusion was is that certain industries are not going to be adaptive to AI, and like you pointed out, like heavy labor industries, there's not going to be a lot of use for AI, especially things that require subtle implementation, like pool cleaning, I think was the example that you used. But then you move to a point where AI implementation makes sense, and then at some point, then human creativity has to take over. So basically, AI falls somewhere in the middle, where it can't do things on the kind of the labor end, but it can also not do things on the heavy critical thinking end.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think that's more like when I started thinking about this, and this is probably an unfair question to ask? Do you think that there's some sort of weird circle going on here where like the half of it at the bottom of the AI and the other half's of the AI, like, because when I think of like how to clean a pool, I'm probably oversimplifying that, but it probably requires a lot more judgment than I'm capable of because of my lack of experience.
Yeah. So you're asking like, well, what exactly do you mean by that?
So like I don't want to simplify labor in that regard to say it's just, it's human labor. We have to have people to do the job, but it seems to be that the human labor by definition cannot be repetitive task, but something that you have to actually use some measure of critical thinking.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially, I mean, for that job specifically, there's plenty of critical thinking that would be involved, and there's going to be a lot of different intricacies between pools, whether it be chemicals, the way it's outlined, the pipe system, everything like that. AI would be useful, but ultimately, it just really needs expert opinion and usually in-person knowledge.
Any other questions? All right, nice work. All right, some truly great presentations today. I was very impressed with everybody. So hopefully we keep up the pace and some good presentations moving forward, but we're going to call it good here, and I'll see you all on Wednesday.